Hey, what's up and welcome back, treasure hunters. I am Joe, the treasure hunting dad, and today we're going to look at some of my recent auction buys. I'm going to let you in on the new auction site. Well, new to me because I've been neglecting it. So I got a whole bunch of auction stuff, mostly all art, just because it just tends to be biased. Like I just look at that more often, but it just tends to be undervalued a lot if you can, because a lot of times people don't know, auction houses won't know like who the artist is and if that holds any value, and if it's actually a nice vintage piece or if it's just like a decorative piece. So a lot of times you can find value in art, and that's just what I found, and I've had some good luck with it. So that's kind of what I look towards, but I do look at a bunch of other stuff too. So, but we're going to look at all the recent art purchases that I got at auction. Here's the first piece that I got, and I got this at an auction, a state auction out in California. It was obviously online, but I got this for $60 plus shipping, which obviously wasn't a whole lot just because it's not framed. This was done by Ernst Ludwig Kirchner, and he was a German expressionist. And this is a hand-colored woodcut print. And the reason why I know that, this is not signed, but there was a whole bunch of his other woodcut prints, in the auction, and some of them were signed, some of them weren't, and all the ones that weren't actually signed, they just said it was done by a German expressionist, and the rest I don't know if they didn't want to put it out there just because it wasn't signed or what, but it's obviously all done by the same person. It's very similar in style and everything else. So picked this up for $60. His work sold in a large range, but for $60 and the pretty minimal shipping, this probably would be in the $300 to $500 range. The only thing that's kind of different, it almost looks like this is half of the actual piece. So like this is the left side, and the other side with probably the signature was somewhere else. So I don't know if that's right or not. It just has no border, and either way though, it's a really cool piece. It would look awesome in like a black frame or something. So I'm keeping my eye out for that, and hopefully I'll be able to find something and get it matted and framed. Either way, really cool piece of art. So here's the next piece. I got this one at a local Cleveland auction house who, I think they were doing some sort of a state auction or something. But I paid $12.50 for this one. Shipping was very minimal just due to the size, and it's coming from Cleveland. And this is an oil painting on canvas. And this was done by, and this was unidentified. It just showed, some good shots of the actual work, which is kind of a still life of a butterfly and some plums. And then they showed a close-up of the signature. It's dated 2002, and this was done by Martin Caton. And that was, just something I saw. I could see that it looked like, his last name looked like Caton. Almost looked like an S in the beginning, but I did a quick search and found the same exact signature on multiple pieces done by him. And his work was selling for, anywhere from, a couple $100 to, well over $500. This is a smaller piece, but for $12.50, this is an awesome deal. It's really nicely done. It'll be easy to ship. And on the back, you can even see original oil painted from life on canvas. And then on the back, it says my boyhood favorite. So it must, I think, mean the plums were his favorite when he was growing up, I guess. But really cool, lucky find here. And, just another example of just doing a, minute of research and figuring out who an artist is. The next piece I got here, this is a vintage silver gelatin photograph, a nature photograph. These are aspen trees. And I picked this up at an estate auction, the one out in California. And I got this because if you watched one of my recent videos, I was talking about black and white photography. It always catches my attention. And this was not, I bought this frame at the thrift store. So this was not framed when it, was taken, photos were taken of it. It was not framed when it came to me. I just put it in there to protect it. Anytime I see black and white photography, it always reminds me of Ansel Adams and some other, great photographers who have very valuable work. And Ansel Adams actually took a lot of photos of aspen trees. I saw, at least when I was doing research. And I'm going to take this out of the frame. So on the back here, you can actually, it's really hard to see, but it's down here in the corner. And it is signed. And that does not look like Ansel Adams' signature. His was more slanted, more elegant. But, this was done by, somebody whose signature is either M something or 2 A's. So this is something I got to get looked at. But for $15 and minimal shipping, I'll always take a shot on, older vintage silver gelatin photography that, could be significant. So hopefully I'll be able to figure out who had created this piece. Here's the next piece. Picked up another small oil painting on canvas. It's in a nice, pretty solid wood frame. And I got this for $30 plus shipping. The shipping was pretty minimal, obviously, because of the size. But the reason why I got this, one, I really like the style. This is actually of Notre Dame. And two, this was very similar, the style and the signature, which is down here. This was unidentified. I can't really read the signature because it's a little bit covered up by the frame and stuff. But it just overall looked a lot like a piece that I found at the thrift store, a while ago that I've never been able to ID. And I wanted to see if it was, in person, if it was pretty close. And I think it is. I just need some help, I guess, from an expert in art. But they did give a lot of good shots. There are nails. That's always a good sign that, it's obviously vintage. The nails are holding the canvas in instead of staples. And you can see too the coloring of the wood and the canvas. Now it's not antique, it's not like super dark or anything, but it's definitely not modern. And you can see the keys also in this stretcher here. All in all, pretty cool piece for $30, and hopefully I can figure out who painted it. Here's the next piece I got. And this is actually really cool. It's very detailed. This is an engraving, and it was done by Piranesi, and it's actually really old. You can see too on the back, like the paper is very different. It's like that hand woven old paper. You can feel it. It's a lot thicker, and you can see, I don't know if you'll be able to catch this in the camera or not, but the back, you can see the different texture that it has. It's kind of almost like a sanded, unfinished texture. The only issue with it is whoever had it before, there is a crease down the center, but this is really old. I can't remember if it was early 19th century or mid or even before that, but it's really old. I got this also for $30 at an estate auction, and I just thought it was super cool. I did a quick image search on this, and I did find some of the same prints that, they were ranging in the $400 to $600 range. I think the $600 range was, one was framed and it didn't have this, crease in the middle. Either way, for only $30, it was a good buy, and then hopefully I can find a cool frame to put this in, and I'll be able to price it, around $500. Okay, so now I'm going to show you all the stuff that I've gotten from this website that I've neglected for the past however long, is just Goodwill's auction site. And the reason why I neglected it, it used to be just not a good website. It wasn't very user friendly. It just looked kind of cheap, and the bidding was kind of, I don't know, it just seemed a little wonky. And so, when I checked it out a long time ago, I, just was like, I really don't see anything that great. And I don't even know where it's coming from. Are these people posting things, or, I just said, screw it. I'm not dealing with this. And then recently, when I was watching one of Dr. Lori's videos, she was mentioning some of the places to find great value, and Shop Goodwill was one of those websites she mentioned. So I'm like, well, I got to check this out again. And now it's a much better website, way better interface. Bidding is a lot easier to do. It's easier to search for things and browse different categories. And all of these items are being posted by the different Goodwills around the country. So they're all coming from actual, Goodwill stores. And shipping is actually very reasonable compared to a lot of the other auction places that, I purchase things from. Most of the time, shipping is pretty minimal. There's not really any markup. A lot of times the auction houses and third-party shippers and stuff have a pretty hefty markup on things. So shipping ends up costing a lot of money. But with Shop Goodwill, as long as it's not like coming across the country or something that's huge that takes, they're going to charge you an extra handling charge or whatever, shipping is pretty reasonable. One thing I will mention with Shop Goodwill compared to all the other auction sites that I buy from is that on the auction sites, like if you're going on HiBid or using any, auction houses that use HiBid as, their platform for bidding, if you bid within like the last 5 minutes or 2 minutes or whatever it is, it jumps the time back up to that 5-minute mark. So every time, bidding can go on and on and on if people are, trying to win an item. But with Shop Goodwill, it ends when it ends. So you gotta, if you really want something, you gotta put, a pretty high max price in. So if anybody else tries to snipe you at the end and, outbid you, you'll be able to overtake them before time runs out. So with all that being said, I would definitely check out Shop Goodwill. There's all kinds of stuff too. I mean, it's not just like vintage stuff. You could get, there's electronics, video games, and, shoes, clothes, whatever you can think of, musical instruments. It's really cool deals, good stuff. So I'd give that a shot and see what you can find. So now let's look at some of the stuff that I've already purchased. So here's one that I got. This is a still life watercolor. It doesn't have glass. The glass must have been broken or whatever. But it's nicely done. And, simply signed Wainwright down here. And all I did was a quick search. This was not identified with any kind of artist. So I did a quick search, watercolor signed Wainwright, and found that it's by James T. Wainwright. And he, just pretty traditional painter, I guess. Did a lot of watercolor work and landscapes and nautical stuff. And this just happens to be a still life. But it, his work was selling in the $200 to $400 range, given probably about this size. Most of his work's around the size, maybe a little bit bigger some. I picked this up and I ended up winning it for $14.99, and shipping was like $10. Here's another one that I picked up, and this is an etching, and this one was done by signed Bickle and dated 1969, 6 of 7, and then it's just of these mushrooms. And the frame's actually pretty hefty. It's a solid wood frame and then pretty thick piece of glass or whatever, plexiglass or whatever this is. I did do a search, and the reason why I bought it, I got it for $16.99, and it was like $10 shipping too. The reason why I got it is because I researched Bickle and found out who the artist was, but I don't remember his first name, so I'll have to check that out again. But I do remember it was obviously worth the shipping cost and, the $16.99 for the piece itself. So that's I'll have to update you on exactly what a closer price might be that I would sell it for, but either way, pretty cool piece here. So this next piece is pretty large. It's unframed, and I just thought this was really cool. This is it was done like mid to late 20th century, and you can see it's of kind of parts of a skeleton. And this was done by Allison Schultz, and it just says monotype down here. I'm not exactly sure. I mean, it looks like a painting, but honestly, I'm not exactly sure if this was done, in like etched first and then stamped down because of this ridge, or if this was just painted on or what. But thought it was really cool. It's pretty big. The matting's got some marks on it, so somebody could always just put another piece of mat over it, or just take it off and have it rematted. But this piece I won for $24.99, and it came from like Virginia or Maryland, so shipping was pretty inexpensive, and especially too since it's so flat, there's no glass to have to worry about breaking or whatever. But her work, she actually still paints, and I found her website, and her work now is, she does a lot of abstract stuff, but it looks nothing like this black and white skeletal kind of abstract thing. It's more, colorful and everything else. But she spells her name in a different way than most people. So that's, it's definitely her. Just kind of fits, the time frame and everything else that she would have painted. Plus she was around the same area, I think, too, like geographically. So really cool piece here, and also her signature matched up some pieces. So probably an earlier piece of hers. Her work, was selling for over $500. Now, given that this is a little bit different than probably what her, fans or collectors are looking at these days, I still thought it was really cool either way. So here's another piece, and I actually didn't get this at Goodwill. I forgot this was behind the monotype thing. So I got this at an estate auction out in California, which it's kind of funny because I find that the artist is Joe Rigsby, and it is signed down there. Very easy to read. And he's actually out of Cincinnati, and this is a Cincinnati steamboat. It's oil painting on canvas. And I just did a quick search, like Joe Rigsby paintings or artwork or oil paintings or whatever it was. And, his stuff was all listed for between probably $400 and $800. And this is very nicely done, very detailed, in a nice frame. And I got it for $30, and I think shipping was probably around $30 also. So it was a really good deal. It's in real good condition. So I'll probably price this around $400, and hopefully I can sell it. So here's the last piece I'm going to show you. Another Goodwill auction purchase. And this is another piece of Haitian folk art, which is cool with me because I've sold a couple pieces and they tend to get a decent value. And I won this for like $20. This one is signed Roland down here. It's in good condition on canvas. And I wasn't able, there's actually, like, surprisingly, when I searched Haitian folk art painting signed Roland, there are numerous people with either Roland as their first name or last name. And most of those people, the signatures aren't like drastically different, like in style, but a lot of them did use their first, like MJ Roland was one, and there was Roland somebody else, and it just, I couldn't match exactly which Roland this was, but all of them, there's a couple that were priced pretty high, but I don't think it's them. It's just a little bit different in style and stuff. So either way, I priced this. I put it up in my store for $200, and obviously listen to offers and stuff, but another piece of Haitian folk art. So those were all my recent auction buys. Hope you enjoyed the video. Let me know what was your favorite one that I found, and if you recognize any of the signatures or anything that I couldn't identify, which pretty hard because you probably can't even really see it because the camera is so far away. So I will be back soon with a new thrift store finds video. I actually found a whole bunch of stuff this past week. Every time I went out, I came out with at least a couple things and a decent variety also. Stay tuned for that. And I'm also compiling my, I'm going to go through and start doing some more sales so everybody can see, what kind of stuff just to look for when you're out at the thrift stores and potential profit that you could make from different types of items. So I think that could be useful. I know that helped me out looking at, when I first started looking at auction results and, what was selling at auction and what people were bidding more on and, how much I could make off of certain items compared to other ones. So hopefully that'll be helpful. So that's all I got for you guys today. Do me a favor, hit that like button and that subscribe button if you could, if you enjoyed the content. And I saw a whole bunch of garage sales, just starting this weekend, and they're going to be, people are going to be trying to get rid of their stuff before fall hits. So get out there to, garage sales, thrift stores. I'm sure there'll be a lot of good stuff that you can buy and flip for a profit.